All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's good to see a few people waiting even before we get started. That's a really good showing. It's a surprise to me. So let me just make sure that all my stuff is working. I think it looks great. So a couple of things to note in terms of business items before we get going here. So I have a new video coming out. I forget, I just recorded it today. So it's on. Let me just take a look at the script. It is on um, the difference or the similarities really between woke leftists and conspiracy theorists, and I think they share this similarity in that they both have a similar intellectual vice. They both kind of have the same similar intellectual pitfall. So if that interests you, that topic, we'll have that out in just a day or two, and then look forward to that. I'm going to go ahead and post the link right here. Make sure it's pinned at the top of our chat box. That's how you call in. Is the instructions say in the description. Link is going to be right there at the top of the chat for you to call in. You come to the studio in StreamYard. You don't have to sign up or register or anything like that. You just come right into the studio. And actually, excuse me, I do request that you have your wherever possible, whenever possible, to have your video on. That way, it encourages this open dialogue, nothing to hide, anything like that. There are studies, interestingly, on like online anonymity, in that it is like encourages like narcissism and stuff like that. But not to say that everybody who's anonymous is a narcissist, but there is a positive correlation. So that maybe I can link that study in the description later. Super interesting. Probably this matches some of your experience as well, so I'm probably not telling you anything new. But and anyway, yeah, the way the show goes, just like many of you already know, but in case you're new, you get to call in, and I will have a new feature. I'll have a timer in order to respect everyone's time. We'll probably put it at, let's see, we'll put it at a, try to put it at a 15-minute timer probably. Let's see if that works. Uh, yeah, I should have set that up before, but I think my only one so far is there it was. Yeah. Yeah, I'll figure it out later. But right now I've got a 10-minute timer on, and if we go past that, if we go over, then that's, we'll do it on case by case basis. But all right, so we have our first guest, and we're going to bring you on, Nathaniel. Good to see you.
Hello.
And you, yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself, what you want to talk about, and then after that brief intro, then we'll start your timer. How's that sound?
Yeah, that's fine. Um, I'm a fellow Catholic. That's probably the main reason. Um, I had a YouTube channel, and Mr. Objective Ethics came on and said he wanted to talk to me about things, and so we did talk about. And then he told me about you, and so I went and watched your thing, and I've kind of been drawn into debating with people and whatnot, and it's been interesting learning principles of logic and things like that from you. So,
Good. Yeah.
in a very
Great.
brief period of time, I mean, I woke up at 6
There
a.m.,
you
all my children were awake, and
go.
I had you, I was kind of listening to you because it was on my list of things to do. And
Yeah.
that was just for 6 hours, just start, stop, start, stop. So,
Gotcha.
that's how my day's been so far.
Yeah,
How,
so I
how's
have
your
seen
going?
you. Yeah, pretty good. Thanks. It's great to meet you, first of all, because I remember seeing your comments earlier today. I was responding to them. So yeah, great so far. Video work. These are my days off on Wednesdays, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, really. Tuesday, Thursdays when I teach. So I try
Nice.
to do video work. Yeah, it's nice that you have a channel. And what is the channel if you want to plug it here?
It's Taurus Necros Productions. And then probably the best thing for people is Village Economy on Substack. That's kind of I had a
Okay,
YouTube
cool.
channel. I had a YouTube channel 6 years ago where I was doing a Bible study before I converted to
Yeah,
Catholicism,
nice.
and yeah, I'm excited about it.
So,
Um,
okay, so you're recent convert then. You say 6 years. I converted in 2019.
oh, me too. Well, no, I got
Okay,
married.
awesome.
Sorry,
Okay.
pardon me. I got married. So I got married in 2019, and then
Awesome.
on Epiphany is when I kind of had my eternal internal conversion. And
Interesting. And then you
actually,
had to go through RCIA and all that.
no,
No? Okay.
no, I didn't go that.
You didn't do that.
It's a heck of a story. So I was okay. I'll tell you the story. This will be worthwhile, actually.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
so I at 2019 in 2019, I had moved to the country. I had kind of from Seattle, Washington, which is where I was living. Um, and in Seattle, I had read the Bible, and I had become very firm about some beliefs, and I was kind of like
Mhm.
non-denominational, leaning more like Calvinist.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I really wanted to have a wife and children, and I kind of had reached the conclusion that in order to, because I didn't want to get divorced like my parents got divorced,
Yeah.
so in order to successfully have a family, I needed to have a law and I needed to have a ritual, and I
Mhm.
just figured that out from reading the Bible, basically. Um, and so, the year 2019, I had Catholics, I had Eastern Orthodox, and I had people that follow the Old Testament. Um,
Mhm.
I call them Judaizers. It's kind of an offensive term, though, so I want a better term than that. But the Catholics won, and I prayed a lot, and God intervened, and it was 30. It was on St. Nicholas's Day that
Nice.
I felt like God told me to be Catholic, and then I said, "Well, give me a month because I got a lot going on right now," and so He
Yeah.
did. And then Epiphany was when I said, "Okay, I'm Catholic," and then 9 months later, when we were um, getting ready to have our first child, uh, that was when the church let me in, sometime in September. So
Nice. Yeah. So this has all happened really
yeah,
recently. That's great. Yeah, I have a very
well,
similar story, of course, and
good.
I've shared some of it here and there. Yeah, so did you come to the church through like an intellectual route, would you say, or just like it sounds like you were like, okay, I know that I need this, this, and this. Was it structure you were looking for because of the marriage? Excuse me.
I mean, that opened my heart and whatnot.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it was definitely like the direct intervention of like God and the Blessed Virgin. So
Nice.
the intellectual route was there.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, I knew I needed to resolve this, but I
Yeah.
remember praying to God and saying, I was very scared because I said, on this side I have schism, on that side I have idolatry,
Yep.
and so I didn't want to go to hell. So I prayed to God and I said, it's going to take 1,000 years for me to figure out what's going on here. So you're just going to have to give me the answer.
That's
And
awesome.
then He did, and yeah, and then I think the virtue of faith kind of was perfected in me after that, because
That's it.
com-
Yeah.
after coming to the church, now I can answer all the questions and I
Oh,
understand
nice.
everything that I was struggling with back then.
Nice.
I kind of left public life. I got married. We were having children, so it worked out. But
Yeah.
that's actually where this YouTube channel comes from.
Your
That's
YouTube
all
channel.
my.
Yeah.
I've got 5 minutes
Nice.
left.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we may need to restart that or need a 20-minute timer, so just disregard that. But
Okay.
yeah, so I find that to be a similar experience. Like I may not know, especially becoming Catholic, I may not know it all. But you know just enough. There's like a critical mass of like, okay, I have enough here that I got to do something with it. And
Right. You got to
so
make a
you take
decision.
that step, and then the understanding can come later. But if you were to just like stay frozen and say, I got to understand it all, I mean, no human choice is made on that basis that you understand everything 100%. So when it comes to matters of faith, of course, and religious beliefs, it's the stakes are much higher, of course. So I can understand and appreciate the
Yeah.
greater caution, but it does err on the side. It tends to be people not taking, the next step. Yeah, that
Yeah.
understanding can come a lot later. Yeah.
I'm a little bit more dynamic of a personality, probably, but a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
have followed me into the church,
Hmm.
different men and women, and I kind of watched them. Some people came to the church and prayed for me and that kind of thing, but I, I've always been a pretty dynamic person involved in a lot of different projects, and so, like one of my best friends, he's got I'm the godparent of his children now, godfather, and he just came into the church, and he had some major intellectual things that he said eventually. Finally, we were talking for years about this. So you better make your decision, because I don't know, this country might collapse tomorrow, and violence and that kind of thing. So you better be ready.
Especially up there in Seattle, right?
Well, he's near DC.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we're
Yeah, I'm in
much
Baltimore,
worse.
so yeah, I know where. Yeah.
Oh, there. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. They all might be friends. Yeah. So anyway, but his was the perpetual virginity of Mary, and
Oh, okay.
I actually published his book, and I had to unpublish it because but it was a good book all about how Protestant pastors should pay more attention to blue collar workers, and of course he spent a lot of time talking in there about Saint Joseph. He loved Saint Joseph before he's Catholic. He was talking about Jesus our Lord in the house of Saint Joseph, but he was also talking about Jesus teaching his brothers carpentry and that kind of thing. So that's why.
Yeah, there's a. That reminds me. I'll put it in the chat. There's a College of Saint Joseph that they just opened up in Steubenville, Ohio. And it's Saint Joseph the Worker, right? So carpentry and stuff. So this is a college. It is university accredited. They partner with Franciscan University of Steubenville, but they teach you the trades. So you're kind of getting both. You're not just getting trade school. You're getting university education when you go there as a student. So the hardest thing is to get the certification if you're not in that state. So yeah, there's a lack of that sort of trades and stuff, and especially as you're starting to see that more, that's something we can start to focus on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's been interesting. I'd say the worst thing about being Catholic is other Catholics. You know what I mean? So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Because it's like it's sort of because I can take that in a couple of ways, like hypocritical stuff, or I can take it in terms of like, oh well, it seems like a comparison issue, and they're better or worse than me. So what way do you mean it?
Oh, I mean, I love people in general. I mean, I'd been to a lot of different denominations and things before I became Catholic. So
yeah,
and I grew up like in a pretty chaotic way. I moved 14 times before I graduated high school. I spent some of my childhood in like an all black, very like crime-ridden town. And I owned my own business at 10 years old. My stepfather taught me how to do that. So I kind of just have this background. I probably get along better with like black Catholics in Louisiana or something like that. But and I'm in Texas now, and I get along best with the Mexicans down here.
Nice,
I think it's more the culture of America in the church, where there's kind of, and this has been the problem in the church for like 200 years, right? Americanism and modernism, that kind of thing. And people get hung up on the liturgy, but I'm always saying, well, we're lay people. The liturgy isn't really our responsibility. I mean, we should
exactly
love it, but
that that tends to happen when you have cradle Catholics or Catholics who've been Catholics for a very long time. They kind of get into their ruts, or they have their favorites of stuff.
Exactly.
Let's reset this timer. I'm going to reset it to start back over. There we go.
Well, it's good to have the excuse in case you had like if I was just coming on crazy and you didn't know and you kind of had a way out.
No, that's why I asked. Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense to me, because people have their own kind of pet projects when it comes to. Hold on, let me restart that. There we go. Yeah, this is my first time to use the timer, so you're my guinea pig, unfortunately. Sorry. Yeah. So I am not one for inter-Catholic or intra-Catholic squabbles, especially liturgical debates. I don't care. I mean, but then again, like, I can understand, like, especially if you're a theologian or a priest or somebody like that who's in charge of that stuff. Sure. I mean, but then also each priest is, they take an oath of obedience. So even if they didn't like something, they would still. I mean, this is the case in our parish. We have people wanting to. They took the altar rail out, when you have an altar rail right there in the front, it forces you to kneel on the altar rail so that you
Right.
take communion on the tongue instead of in the hand. And so, like, this is a real serious issue to people.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, our bishop, either in the Archdiocese of Baltimore or the U.S. Conference of Bishops, has said that I think it's U.S. Conference Bishop says that it's permissible to take either way, standing or kneeling, doesn't matter, on the hand or on the tongue, doesn't matter. It's just open, like the wide ticket. It stands on that. It's not like one's wrong, whatever. So that's the position. And so our priest, because he took that vow of obedience, he's like, look, I don't want to it's a small decision, but it doesn't seem all that controversial. But I don't want to put the altar rail back in there because even though my parish members want it, because it might encourage one way or the other, and we don't want to just have that. So yeah, that's just one example. Priests have to think about that, but they also are beholden to that obedience to their prior.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as far as your everyday person, like I'm in theological circles, academic circles with respect to theology and philosophy, and so
Right.
I see a lot more of that discussion probably that's more justifiable, but like your everyday layman probably should stop talking about it. You know what I mean? As far as I'm
Right.
concerned, like I don't talk about it, so.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, I mean, people just need to have a lot more like charity and understanding towards everybody. I mean, priests especially. I love the Latin Mass. I'd rather go to the Latin Mass. I always kneel. I always receive on the tongue. But the thing is that there was a lot going wrong. God kind of punishes people, and there was a lot going wrong before 1970 Vatican II.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, those things are still around today, and it seems like the liturgy, the fighting over the liturgy is just kind of a distraction. And I think it's not. And the liturgy is the liturgy is the most important thing, but we don't have any influence over it. It's because we're Americans. We think, oh, we just control
exactly.
everything.
It is very much,
It's
it
pride.
is very much, it is very much a cultural thing with Americans. Like you won't see this in other countries, other cultures who are more communal, but we're very individualistic, and we fall into this trap of like, I just want to pick everything and have it my way, and it's just not how things go. Yeah.
Well, and let me tell you something that every Catholic has total control over, and this individualistic attitude totally affects everything, and it's American philosophy, and it's like I went to a Latin Mass church, and I'm the youngest of 5. My parents were divorced. Okay, I came to the church. I was Christian before that, and my parents, I'm on good terms with them and everything like that. But they just lived in parts of the country. They live in parts of the country that I don't want to take my children, and I don't really have any family. And the reason why I don't really have any family is because I am Catholic. Like when I read Jesus Christ's promise that you left lands, fathers, mothers, riches for me, I take that 100% like he is talking to me directly, because I gave up a lot to be Christian.
Yeah.
And then to be Catholic, I gave up even more. I lost my friends.
So your family's not even Christian.
I mean, they're all
nominal.
They're all over the place.
A lot of my family's like that as well. There are no Catholics in my family for generations. I come from Arkansas. It's all Southern Baptist there, evangelical, non-denominational. So, I imagine it's similar in Texas, except for the Hispanic Catholics. There's not really a lot of Catholic presence. You do have some like German immigrants, depending on the towns and stuff, and some Polish and Slovak and stuff, and Czech. But that might be Catholic. But my family, you have to go back like 4 generations, and I've done it. Like I've looked at genealogy just to find like, where are the Catholics in my family? And so I totally get it, man, having to tell my family that I'm converting, and they're like, what?
Right. Well, it's not just that. It's like, it's it's the whole mechanism of, and I don't know, my microphone, everything broke before I got on here, so I had to change everything up. But it's the whole mechanism of how a community and how a society works. It's like, this is what I say, it has a lot to do with American philosophy. It's like every man's house is his castle, the nuclear family, these things that were invented basically by Americans. It's like, we have 3 children now. Our oldest is 4. The last 2 years has been total hell for us. And, you know, when it started, and my wife's the oldest of 2, we don't really know how to raise children. And so everything we're just figuring it out, and nobody does. But what I've noticed is people get to be my age, or they start to have children, and they go live by their parents. And that's not an option for us. And so when this started, I talked to my priest about it. I said, man, we're just having trouble. Like, I'd love to pray for 5 minutes and that kind of thing. And he said, well, talk to the older ladies at the church. That's what he told me to do.
Yeah.
I talked to them, and I said we could use some help. And they gave me money, and they gave me advice. I could not get one of them to hold my child at mass to save their lives. You know, really? I couldn't get somebody to just visit my house and like kind of like help us out, guide my wife. You know, she wasn't taught how to be a housewife, and she's trying to do it right. And and then like now we got 3 children. I still got all the same problems. I moved to try to have better prospects, and things are a little bit better here. But it's like, because out there it was kind of a retirement community, but it's like I talk to people about the struggles we have just trying to raise children and be married, which is like something anybody should be able to do. St. Ambrose said that it's the easy option as far as like it's easy to find a wife and have children, but it's really hard for men now to find wives, and it's really hard to raise children. And now Catholics are telling me, well, just practice. I say, well, you know, we're struggling with money because everything's so expensive. Of
course,
You know, I don't have any time to work because my children are getting sick or my wife's getting sick.
Right,
You know what I mean? So I always missing work. And they're like, well, just... So they tell me, this is what they tell me. They say, stop having children, you're too poor. That's what they tell me.
Who tells you that?
I've heard that from several people.
From Catholics?
Catholics, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they say try to practice natural family planning.
Maybe. I mean, look, you can't change the number of kids you have now, of course, but...
right.
How old's your youngest? You said under 3? They're all under 3?
Well, she just turned 4 this year.
They're under 4? Okay, 4. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get it. Yeah. I think they're just, in other words, trying to say strive for prudence, you know, and planning and stuff like that, your family, which, okay, that's kind of taken for granted. Everybody wants to do that.
Sure.
Yeah, but interesting, you said there's no one in the church you can get to like hold your baby or kid or something. It's like, I've seen, not personally, you know, because I have, you know, I have limited social skills, you know, being a philosopher and all that, really heady and intellectual type. My wife is much better at that socializing stuff. But, like, I won't hold a baby unless it's, like, related to me. And even then, I'm like, maybe, you know.
Well, you're a man.
my own kid, for sure. Yeah, for sure, yeah. But I've seen, like, on Instagram, TikToks and stuff, religious sisters, or not cloistered nuns, but sisters, you know, who live in community, and they're always happy, man. There's a whole order of religious sisters who, or it might even be cloistered nuns, who their only job really is to pray for mothers, like overnight, because mothers have to stay up overnight to take care of the kids. So like,
oh, nice.
There's some sisters out in the world somewhere praying for you as a mother, you know, being up with kids, and I've seen a lot of videos of, I don't know where these are, you have to look them up, but you might ask your priest, like, are there any people in the congregation or even sisters local to you that would be interested? Like, these are my needs, and I'm not getting them met here on my own power and effort. So maybe you can point me to somebody who has an opposite need, and we can match up or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I didn't mean for it to be too focused on me. I mean, I am kind of...
No, that's fine. No.
I am kind of pursuing those... I've been doing it for a long time. I mean, basically what I'm doing now is I'm just trying to... I'm a small business owner, and I realize that a lot of Catholics kind of have more of like employment mindset. I think it comes from
Mm-hmm. Oh,
the
right.
night.
Yeah.
I think it comes from the 1970s, from basically like when the morals started to get real bad in America and everyone started getting divorced and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I think Catholics held the line, and so I think that's why they still got that 1950s attitude of like, you just get a job and get a retirement, college education.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen
so
some stuff on Lila Rose. This will be last thing, and then I'll let you have the last word here. But
sure,
Lila, I think I saw a recent video of Lila Rose. I'm sure you know her. Her live action. She does like anti-abortion
yeah,
stuff, pro-life stuff, and about how the it's a fiction of the stay-at-home mother.
right,
That for all of history, really, women did work. Uh, it just looked different. They didn't go to a corporate office job, but they, helped around the village, or they helped go pick berries or whatever it may be. And that was sufficient for work. It's not like you're making a salary doing those things, but that was work. So
oh
it's just
yeah,
like this whole weird, narrow mindset of, well, if you're not doing something that pays a salary, then you're not really working. So we kind of
right.
have to rethink what it means to work, and then rethink, if we're going to stay at home, what would that entail? Is it going to be work? It certainly is going to be a lot of work, and so it's just a fiction that you have these stay-at-home mothers and now fathers and so on. But anyway, I'll give you the last word here, and then we'll let the next person join up in line.
Well, that's something. That's actually something I wrote an essay about. Or an article at least. I've got to kind of edit it, but about the nature of the third commandment. That if you understand, it's like like men. Okay, so if you look at the point of view of men left the home first, then women were pulled out of the home. So, and men were actually meant to stay in the home. A lot of people overlook that. Industrialism pulled them out in the 1900s, and that's what all the popes were concerned with. They were concerned with that kind of stuff. But if you look at the third commandment, remember the Sabbath, remember rest, the fact that you're not a beast, you should have a day to pray, a day to rest. And if you factor in all these other things, like, yes, coming home and doing the dishes is work. Even watching children is work. So that means if you're working 6 days a week for a salary and then you come home and keep working, well, that wrecks your mind. It stops working rationally. And I think that's actually, because of the Protestant work ethic and everything, I think that's actually the state that we live in, where every man I know of, this is why I have so much sympathy for atheists and agnostics, because economics is godless. And we're all just exhausted because we never get to rest, because this industrial system breaks us down into machines. And then when you look at it from God's point of view, that commandment is above murder. It's above theft. It's above theft. It's above adultery. And so the sorts of people who are concerned about like God punishing us for abortion, that kind of a thing, it's like, well, oppressing the poor, which is what America has done from its foundation, by working men this hard, is actually a worse crime in God's eyes, taking away the Sabbath rest. And think about your average father. How much rest do you get on the Lord's Day? You have to buckle everyone into these car seats. You got to drive down. There's no rest at all, And that's after 6 days of work. Yeah, and
especially
then you got to
for
mow
young
the
parents.
lawn. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Well, good,
So that's
man.
well,
well,
thank
listen,
you.
I really appreciate you coming on. It's wonderful to meet you, and I welcome you back anytime. And we'll start with and this is what I'll do for every new guest, probably a 20-minute timer, so you don't get rushed or anything like that.
Well, God bless you. Let me know if there's ever
come back
anything I
anytime.
can do for you. And,
Awesome. Yeah. Well, you've got enough on your plate, so I don't want to give you too much. And anyway, go enjoy your family, and God bless you, man. Oh, looks like he froze, so we'll take him down. All right. That was perfect timing. So, all right. So, So we're gonna bring in new alt side here, who looks like he's got his very own camera, which is pretty terrific. So just as a reminder, this is a call-in show. I see a couple of people in the chat chatting with each other. That's great. Neo Disestablishment looks like he wants to, as he says, deliver a sort of philosophical scree. I look forward to that if you want to join in. But the way to join in is you look at the top of the chat, that pinned message, and to get that link. That's a StreamYard link. Everybody gets about 20 minutes. So we will bring you back in, new alt side, and wonderful to finally meet your face. I know that we've seen you before here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Am I coming through all right? I think I am.
Yeah,
I need
sounds
to
great.
create this a bit better.
There, and I forgot my scroll bar here, so we'll have that as well. Just disregard, and then we'll start a. Hold on, let's see if I can get it going. Eventually, I'll have this really streamlined and everything, but that should look good. And then, of course, I need to
Perfect.
minimize that.
I'm glad to no longer be the amorphous blob on the screen, which
But
is that's always a plus.
well, good to see you,
Um,
literally this time.
yeah,
So, welcome back.
yeah.
So, how are things?
Things have been. And speaking of being, the conversation that I wanted to have based off of our not our your last video,
Oh
well, not
yeah.
the video, but the stream. Um,
Okay.
well, I
Yeah,
would like
because
to
you weren't here. We
talk
kind
about
of.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't able to be here, but you had some great, interesting discussion about the philosophy behind what it is to be, which
Yeah.
it's fascinating to me. So I looked into a little bit of it. I won't say that I did any more than surface level research because I tried to do a bit more, but a lot of that is it's rather hard to digest if it's not placed in a digestible manner, if that makes sense. Um, so yeah, let me see if I can find
Yeah.
something
So
here about it.
okay, so just to recap for everybody who hadn't maybe watched that, that was my last live stream, office hours. It's only an hour long because we were experiencing technical difficulties. But there, towards the end, within the last 15, 20 minutes or so, we got into um, different uses of the word is, which is just a conjugation, like is, am, is, are, of the verb to be, right? To be, and to be is being or existence. So this really, as you're saying, like it does boil down to like different ways in which something exists. They're not just linguistic or semantic differences. These are like real features of reality. So this is within, to back up, this is within the philosophical domain of metaphysics. So for metaphysics, like everybody needs to have like a really good theory of existence. You probably have never heard about theories of existence, but everybody needs a real sufficient and well structured and coherent theory of existence. And this would include like ways in which something exists. And so I think this one, from I showed a PowerPoint and was like talking through the different ways in which something can exist. That derives from Aristotle. So that's who I'm working with there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I got your previous stream pulled up here, your
Okay,
previous
cool.
office hours, and the specific. This is sort of where I started from. Your slideshow here about the properties, about different notations of is, and that's sort of where the philosophy behind to be is sort of stems from. So you have five different here, and so there. I'm gonna use you as an example,
Okay.
Mr.
Yeah. Yeah. Go for it.
McAllister. McAllister is you are of existence. You are
Mm-hmm.
here upon my screen. I'm pretty sure you're not AI.
Yeah.
I give you the benefit of the doubt there. Um, uh, McAllister is a doctor of philosophy, as in that is of identity. That is the second definition of is. It requires a certain context around it, and that context being the identity itself. Um, McAllister, you are a person, you are human. That
Mm-hmm.
is essential predication, which is something I did not know about, nor do I really understand. And
Yeah.
I'd like to get behind
Okay.
predication
Cool.
because
Yeah.
you went into it during the stream there a bit,
I did a little bit.
and
Yeah.
yeah, I can't say I fully understood it. I tried to learn about it a bit more, but I want to delve into that a little bit more to get um sort of the difference between essential and accidental because I couldn't quite define it well.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah,
so
let's
between us, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
let's I have that so everybody can follow along here. I've got this screen and yeah, so this is what it looks like. Actually, this is a different slide right here. So we started off, this is the slide that I kind of really focused on properties, different notions of is. You talked about Socrates is, period, just full stop. Then it would just be is of existence. We're just saying that he exists. Socrates down. You said Dr. McAllister is doctor in philosophy. Now, I just have to quibble with this example, and you're still learning, so no shame or anything. But
I
it would
apologize.
have to be uniquely um, satisfiable. Like so other people, since other people are doctors of philosophy, I don't uniquely satisfy that. Now, if you were to say
Okay.
is the father of Oliver, naming my son, then there's only one of those, so then it would be uniquely satisfied, right? So, but in other words, this can be swapped. The two places before and after the is can be swapped, and they can still hold the same truth. So you were saying
Okay.
about essential predication. So this would be an example of essential predication. Socrates human, used correctly. The Dr. McAllister is a person or human person. That would also be correct. Here, right here, red is a color. That would be essential predication. As long as you're thinking of the shade, the tone, right, the thing itself, the hue of, well, it's going to have to be a color. So as long as you understand what this doesn't mean some guys at the gas station named Red, or a dog or something like that. This actually refers to the hue, the tone. Then that necessarily is going to be a color. If you take coloredness away from that thing, then it will no longer exist. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So
So
this here, dogs are
for
domestic, is going to be accidental because you can have dogs that are not domesticated. Cats are feline is again going to be essential to the nature of a
okay,
cat to be feline, just because that's what a cat is. Yeah.
right. So it's more like as far as is goes, the better way to understand it about this predication, the difference between essential and accidental is like subcategories. Um, if your subject, the thing that you're talking about, isn't within the category that, you're giving the subject the identity of, right? Is that the correct phrase? It's not identity, is it? How
Um,
do I put this? Basically,
It's
not
you would use the
all.
word predicate. So, in language, it's like you have subject, place, and then a verb, and then a
Okay,
predicate. So think about this
okay,
linguistically: subject, verb, predicate, and predicate is whatever is said of the subject. So
gotcha.
Socrates is white or Greek or philosopher. That's being said of the subject, and so in other words, it's being predicated of the subject. And so that whatever is being predicated could be anything.
Okay, so essential basically defines it not as essential is basically like you have your subject, you have your predicate. If all the subjects that your phrase refers to fulfills the predicate or is within the predicate,
Yes,
then it is essential because
that's yeah.
it
Well,
is always true.
yeah, it would be another way to put it is if it's a central predication, that means that what is being predicated is essential to the nature of the thing. Like it's not accidental, or accidental means contingent.
Okay, essential to
So
the nature of
essential to
something.
the nature
That's
that it's necessary that the
interesting.
thing must have it. So it's not necessary to Socrates that he be Greek because it's possible he could have been born somewhere else, right? I think he was born in Athens. He could have been born in Turkey or somewhere. So, um, so it's not essential to the nature of that person, Socrates, that he be that way. It's not essential that he be a certain skin color because he could get a tan or something, but it is essential to him, like the object. As soon as, and that's the thing, we got to pick out the right object. It's got to be uniquely identifying this guy, Socrates, not some other dude who we're talking about. Just we're talking about the same guy. It is essential to that thing that he be a human being. Like, and if he weren't a human being, he just it would no longer be the thing that he is. Like we could talk about, I have a pet rock named Socrates. Well, it's not you're not talking about the same subject anymore. So as long as you're talking about the same subject, it's essential to him, necessary that he be a human being. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because the Socrates of the past, the thing that we're talking about, our subject is a human being, ergo, identity wise, that is a necessary fulfillment. That is something that needs to be fulfilled to talk about that subject.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I getting that correctly?
Yeah. Just be careful with the word
Mm,
identity or identify,
right.
because it is of
Meta
identity.
ethics.
Yeah. Well, identical just means like is the same thing. So humanness
Like
is not
that's
this is not the same thing as Socrates, but uh, so just be careful with that word. But other than that, I think you got it.
okay. Sounds good. Sorry, I'm just turning my breakdown down.
No, that's all right.
Because that
I didn't even hear it.
okay, thank goodness. And this mic's better than I thought. Um, I could hear it on the reverb, so um, I guess that sort of answers my predication question.
Nice.
As far as because like the reason why you pulled it up was because of
Hmm.
we're talking about predication and the properties of is. So
Yeah.
that's why you initially pulled this up. So that sort of answers my question.
And,
Socrates is he said a lot of things. Where exactly can I go to specifically find stuff about the philosophy of is or what it means
um,
to be?
yeah, like I said, I think you can probably look up theories of existence, but I mean, if you just Googled that, you'd get who knows what. So
Fair.
probably theory. You probably need to Google stuff like theories of existence, comma metaphysics or something like that, or
Okay.
philosophy, or look up um, because not all philosophy resources have theories of existence because they don't all have a rigorous analysis of metaphysics. Because there are different schools of thought. Some will be like, oh, we don't need rigor and precision. We'll just this is probably a stereotype of philosophers. It's like, oh, we like to talk flowery language and never arrive at any precision. That's one school of thought called Continental. And then you got the analytic philosophers, another school of thought. They're more Anglophone. Continental Europe and Anglophone is historically the divide. And then, so the analytic philosophers are going to be the ones that are all about precision, but to the detriment of maybe not having profundity. It's all very dry. But if you wanted to learn about that dry precision, you would go look up like theories of existence, analytic philosophy, or something like that, and you'll find or analytic metaphysics. It'll pop right up.
Oh, profundity of the nature being profound. I had
Yeah,
to
yeah,
look that up.
yeah,
That's not a word I've heard before.
yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah,
And
I'm
so
absolutely going to look into that.
some resources you could follow up on are like the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, like plato.stanford.edu, and then you've got the IEP, which is Internet. I think it's Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy. I think it's Internet. It might be international, but I think it's Internet IEP. Uh, and
IUP, I'm writing
you'll
that down.
but just look up Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and those two will pop up, and they're both very good. Their entries are all done by like licensed, certified academic scholars who have their doctorates in whatever they're doing. They're specialized in those. So entries tend to be very long, but if you want something that's really exhaustive, I'd look at those resources. Yeah,
Nice.
and they're
Yeah.
free, which
Um,
is nice.
that is the most I could ask for when it comes
Awesome.
to any literature. For
Yeah,
it to be
exactly.
free, that's amazing. Yeah, thank you. I guess like extending from the idea of these theories of existence, self-identity and figuring
Hmm.
out who I am. I the reason why I've been looking into sort of stuff like this is sort of trying to define very basically what it means to be in the first place, which I think
Yeah.
is probably a good place to start. Um, and the second place that I've semi-identified is my surroundings. Because
Yeah.
I've always found that people are built off of their surroundings. They're built
Hmm.
off of their experiences, I was going to say the things they've gone through, that's sort of redundant, but very heavily they're based off their experiences. Um, I'm trying to phrase this in a way that doesn't get into like a nature nurture debate, and then
Yeah.
we like spiral from there, and that's kind of hard to do so because like intrinsically there's a very broad discussion about whether or not one is more important than the other.
Yeah.
I think the majority of people though are either somewhere in between there, and it is
Yeah.
somewhat of our nature that does affect us. Um, which like that's another thing. Um, because being, our perspective of being is also shifted not only by who we physically are, but
Hmm.
by who we are mentally. Um, and if we're gonna get into that language, you could also make a dichotomy between who we are mentally and who we are when we are emotional, and
Yeah.
all of these different ideas. So, well,
Yeah.
I
So what
guess
comes to
if
mind, if you allow me to
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
interject here, sorry. What comes to mind is
Absolutely.
the difference between like a classical view and then a existentialist view of personhood and existence and self. And so, have you ever heard existentialism? I'm sure you've heard of like existentialism, big 20th century thought, and really their tagline is something like uh,
Oh, you're
existence.
talking about a person now.
Well, so yeah, so existence precedes for existentialism. Existence precedes essence is their tagline. So existence precedes
Oh,
essence. Have you ever heard this?
I've
Existence
not
precedes
heard of that
essence.
tagline
Okay,
before.
so and then
I think I
and
vaguely know who you're talking about, maybe.
well, not a
Um,
specific person. It's like 20th century. It's like several people who are in this school of thought. Existentialism. Okay, so let me explain what I mean,
okay.
and it'll become clear. So, with
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
existence precedes essence, then that means I first exist, and then I get to go out and choose what it is that I become, or that I go and grasp, whatever it is I have ambition towards. But that is opposed to a classical understanding of the self, which essence precedes existence. Not that your essence exists like by itself somewhere, but that you exist, and well, your essence preceded that in the sense that once you exist, let's say I'm a human being, I'm just constrained by my nature. I can't be an owl, I can't be a fish. I just have to live within the
Oh,
limits of my essence, my nature. And so that's the classical understanding of the self. Whereas the existential understanding is I first exist and then I get to kind of go out and pick. This is why you see people that like do these body modifications to try to become like a lizard person or something like that. It's like I can just be anything I want to be. Yeah. It's like I
well, that took a
have
hard left
ambition to
turn,
go
but
out and yeah,
I think I get what you mean.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, yeah. I think what you were talking about there, if I had to put labels on it, which I don't typically want to put labels on it, but for the sake of
yeah.
just understanding, I think you were talking about the difference between existentialism and transcendentalism, where um, most often transcendentalism is, it's attributed to a soul of sorts. Um,
Can be. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it
Most
in
most
effect it
often
is
I'd say.
your essence
Hmm.
that precedes you, and then it is your nature, your biology that combines with it to help dictate who you are.
Well, so
Whereas in sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so I think you're right here, but you're kind of latching onto something different. Yes, you're right about the soul.
Maybe I am.
It would be on this view, but I'm talking about the nature of a thing. So the nature of a plant doesn't. I mean, some philosophers think plants have souls, but the nature of a table, the nature of a celestial planet or something like that, it's just going to be a certain shape, have certain features, that sort of thing. Same thing with the nature of a human being, and we're talking about human being generally speaking, not like the specific human being. Like that's going to be general to humans. It's not going to be my specific soul. But this,
Huh.
you're right that kind of plays in here as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. It's interesting. It's all interlocked and interwoven, and it's
Yeah.
very
There are some views
very
about the soul on which the soul precedes the existence of the body, of course. And then there are two different varying views. One is the soul precedes the existence of the body. And then two, the soul begins to exist at the moment the human begins to exist, just kind of boom. Um, so yeah, if you believed that the soul pre-exists, then it's going to come with all of its personality and everything like that. Yeah.
yeah. And that is an interesting. That's an interesting way to put it. I
She says,
I don't
Haley
know. I
says
don't know.
here,
Huh?
Dr. McCallus doesn't believe plants have souls. Aquinas is scandalized. This is hilarious, actually, because I almost said this. Aquinas does believe plants have souls. But the difference is that plants, for Aquinas, the soul is the anima, which is, it's spelled A-N-I-M-A there in the chat. Anima, which just means whatever it is to animate something. So whatever animates the body. When it's gone, well, the thing that animated the body is no longer there, and so that's why people say, well, the soul is no longer there. So that's just the Greek word for soul. Yeah. So of course, if a plant is something that can move, because they move slowly, but they move, then and be nourished and grow and so on, then of course it's going to be something that can is an anima, can move the thing. Yeah. Anyway, we run out of
Excellent.
time. Why don't you
Yeah, we
wrap
have
us
run out
up?
of time.
Give you the final word here.
Well, I've written down that one, Aquinas, because I wanna look into that now and
Yeah.
the concept of anima.
He's
But
actually
yeah,
my favorite philosopher, so I'm glad Haley brought him
great.
up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Nice. It's definitely interesting. We ran out of time now, but I kind of was going to go into like, okay, if it is in the nature of things to move, like the sun moves, our planets
Mm.
move, would he believe that those things also have souls? Do
Oh,
those
that's
souls
interesting.
conflict with one another? Do they have a will? Do they have a personality? And like yeah, I'm gonna have to read that now. I'm gonna have to
That's
look into
really,
that.
yeah. Chase that down. Let me know next
Life
time what you find.
life is never ending homework.
All right. Well, great to
But
talk to
yeah,
you. I'll see you next
I
time.
give the floor I give the floor to the next person.
All right.
See
See
ya.
ya. All right. Good deal. Okay. So we're going to bring in our next person who is waiting. And it looks like who we got here, Neo Disestablishment. So welcome. Good to meet you. We've not talked before, but tell me a little about yourself, and then what do you want to talk about?
Dr. Derek McKell. I'm sorry, that's my girlfriend asking what the stream is.
Hmm.
So I was going to try and bring an end to the postmodern era in 20 minutes. Establish that X equals X, and then get past the upper limit of that's the whole thing. That's the P equals NP problem, the ecological carrying, like a practical application of any of that. So starting with Nietzsche, um, it's pretty much industrial complexity that unmoored the human mind, and he's suggesting basically one of two things: either a chaos theory equation to grasp complexity and reestablish some kind of cognitive order, or figure out a way to self-create some kind of order. Um, so, in the light of that being a chaos theory equation, it's like, how do I establish that X equals X and show that there's a ground of being and prove that numbers aren't abstract, separate from physicality? So there's like a whole long journey here about what does even neo-disestablishment mean. So it's like there's neoliberalism and then
Yeah.
neoconservatism as the primary political philosophies, and how did that end up the way that it is? Well, it's like a mostly economically conceived uh, international system of uh, sovereign affairs between different parties that don't resolve things within any independent nations like court system. So it's mostly about property rights and well, just money in general. Because in order to establish and hold any kind of power, you have to basically be able to use money, because these are mostly old people who sit around and other people do stuff and they're kind of the brains and blah blah blah. Um, so we have a debt situation. So it's essentially neoliberalism is a kind of well, I should start with neoconservatism, or the millennial rebrand, which is neo-reaction, Yarvin, all these guys. So that came about with the fall of the Soviet Union. Some late Soviet philosophers in their particular context, because they think that like techno-feudalism, they think that you can survive by clinging to technology the way that the Russians clung to their nuclear stockpile and survived the political and economic collapse. And they felt that it was held together by elites, basically, but it was actually money that they borrowed from their neighbors. So it wasn't strictly technology or some kind of agrarian order that allowed them to survive that. So that's like Trotsky and some of these other guys that eventually evolves into like the neoconservative school of thought, in part because the American philosophy was challenged by basically internationalism, mostly on an economic level. So that's where you kind of get neo-liberalism,
Okay.
which goes a little bit beyond the bounds of classic liberalism. And a lot of people feel that the American system of philosophy like failed, so they're attempting, a sort of global state of affairs, whether it's centralized or multipolar theories. Okay, so how does that have anything to do with x equals x? Well, I've been trying to think about how to describe separateness and unity, as in like the whole universe is like one thing, but each individual object is also its own thing, and that'd be a kind of paradox, because in multipolar thinking they kind of run into the problem of like unity and separateness, and the same is true of like, is this centralized conception really like, does it allow for individual entities to be like categorically understood within an overarching framework? Does it have to be basically a monopoly instead of just economy conceptually, like a company, not just like an economy, singular company? Um, so that actually comes into like all these problems of resource management and okay, cool. So neo disestablishment is basically my attempt at a category that transcends and subsumes both of those. And the idea is something along the lines, practically speaking, of looking at the kind of debt system, the mathematics, like metabolism, in the overall context of nature, and seeing that what you kind of have is in the industrial era, um, there was unions that were formed to deal with corrupt factory owners and things like that. Then they started calling in scabs, and then you go starting at like the 16th Amendment, you could see a kind of back and forth fight between the Republicans and Democrats to try and address this spiraling set of sort of checks on power both ways from that point. Um, so it's kind of interesting. Uh, and so it's like, okay, if you can't get anybody to stop using the money, that's always the argument. Like you yourself are never going to do anything because everyone else is going to keep using the money and whatever, and then everybody just complains. And if you try and like get a strike together, it wouldn't work. And then for the point of like fair wages and some kind of stable economic balance systemically. Um, so instead, it's like I kind of picked up on internet trolling in the millennial internet age here, uh, could cause a sort of equilibrium in a check on power because like managerial error can cause a rebalancing of like economic inequalities. So sort of just like statement of truth really upsets certain people. So like basic statements of truth causes
Yeah.
re-equalizing in economic balances strangely by means of causing like systemic error, all the people that listen, uh, and that's interesting because it like kind of levels off the overall economic inequality to a more long-term stability type of, so it's a methodology, it's like kind of a American philosophy, and I don't want to let go of it. So it's like an additional, like conceptual methodology to ensure long-term economic stability instead of running into the hangups of like the labor market and uh, like global welfare and various powers that are trying to install their um, trade systems like BRICS and stuff like this. So how to empower the individual, basically. Okay, what does that
Okay.
have anything to do with math? X equals X. Well, it's like there's this thing called the P equals NP problem, which is called the hardest computational problem in the world. And if you look into what that is, it's about the mathematics that we can actually apply in reality, like what's practically possible versus what's abstractly known. And that has a lot to do with sort of the argument over basically the great game. So whether it's going to be multipolar or this like centralized economic system, that has entirely to do with the fact that we have not had an answer to P equals MP, which means like very, very large numbers have never been practically applicable in the real world because we don't have a more fundamental and refined system of mathematics to straddle these problems, practically speaking. So that limits us to the scope of Earth effectively. And we can't really figure out how to get, we can go to space, that definitely exists, but we don't have like a great system of resource management to leave the Earth. And then you kind of end up with the chaos theory, like too many fish in a small pond issue, and then you get like cyclical collapses. And so if there's not a neighbor to borrow money from due to globalism, then you get a major crash, which is the Great Reset. So I'm hoping to argue a slightly more optimistic, from exactly where we are, like set of adjustments to that whole situation. Okay, so
All right.
I'm
Let
not
me
even
let
going to
me
give you a
interrupt
backstory
here
on the math,
because
but
let
I'll
me
tell you the
interrupt here
math.
if you don't mind.
Yeah.
All right. So it took me a while to even figure out what you're talking about at first. You said a lot here. I had to go back in the chat and realize that you're giving a manifesto here. And you've been all over the place a lot, that's for sure. And so you've got a lot of ground to cover. That's totally fine. But who would you say, just so we're trying to like gain some traction here, and for my own understanding, for anybody who's watching, who would you say that you're like, what thinker most closely aligns with what you're trying to bring to the table?
Diogenes. So I'm
Diogenes,
trying to come,
which has
yeah,
nothing to do
like,
with like tech. That's like 2,500 years ago or something. So in what
yeah,
way does
Diogenes.
Diogenes is similar to what you're presenting here?
Realism. Now, Diogenes never actually kind of squared the issue with Plato about metaphysics, but he
Hmm.
was always trolling and harassing Plato in his symposiums, um, kind of trying to get people to touch grass and sort of walking around like, I don't know that any of this is really worth my time,
Yeah.
and living in a barrel and stuff like this. Now, um, I don't agree with his like kind of theory of detachment from the world, but I don't want to go into like a long-winded screed about Zen and how ultimately I'm more Western and everything. Um,
Yeah.
but Diogenes, a realist, basically in the
Okay.
original sense of cynicism.
So, and then among
But
modern or late modern thinkers, say 20th century, you mentioned Trotsky, you mentioned some Soviets. So, not to load your answer or anything, but like, who is it in recent times, let's say last 500 years, that you would also find common ground with? And especially when it comes to like
uh,
the technological stuff or the nation state political stuff.
George Washington, um,
Hmm.
I would consider that like a unique philosophy that was put forth in kind of maybe social or political terms. Nikola Tesla, in terms of technology and whatever, but I disagree with him about ether. I also don't think that it's dark matter, gravity waves, force carriers, any of that at all. I don't believe that it's quantum or relative either.
Okay.
Um,
And
which
so, like, what
does have to
authors are
do
you
with my
reading?
argument.
What authors are you
I,
reading to
I've
come
read a
to?
lot. I've read a lot
Okay.
of things.
Okay. Who would you say your favorite philosophers are then?
Um, I mean, I do actually like Plato and Socrates and Diogenes. Modern philosophers, I don't know. I've like, it's not that I really agree with anybody, but I like Byung Chul Han, just because it's a really good screed, even from the liberal side that I can respect and
Hmm.
appreciate.
Yeah.
Um, let me see. I don't know. You have Elul. That's all pretty interesting. Um, there's these like I like Terence McKenna. I'm not even gonna lie. I think Terence McKenna invented neoliberalism. That's
Yeah.
the whole thing. If you look into his sort of reaction to the Vietnam War and a lot of things, you have to listen to like hundreds of hours of talk. But I kind of came to the conclusion that based on who he was surrounded by and everything, that he lightweight came up with a lot of neoliberalism in this concept of boundary dissolution and like accelerated um, response to resource management, like
Hmm.
ecological collapse. Um, yeah, I think it was mostly Terence McKenna that came up with
Okay,
neoliberalism.
cool. Yeah, I think I've heard of him. Yeah, I've not done much reading in contemporary like political philosophy, let alone historical political philosophy, which is quite different, of course. But I actually have done a lot of reading in historical political philosophy. But we're talking like classical thinkers like Aristotle, uh, Plato, Aquinas, Augustine, those sort of guys. But as far as like modern nation states, once the U.S. gets established, I've read a few. Like I've read Dworkin, I've read Robbie George, who's at Princeton. So there are a few that I've read, but like I'm not up on these things. So I'm just giving you like kind of my educated guess on these things.
Yeah,
And
I
yeah,
really skip over the vast majority of the middle of historical philosophy because it's almost just summed up by like the founders talking about a republic, throwing it all
yeah,
the way back to Plato, because elite theory and stuff like this isn't really saying the same thing as. So the founders are basically talking about you have like the oligarchs and the masses, but then what's kind of left out is Plato and his homies who wield a lot of power and don't exactly want to get the shit end of the stick as the Pareto principal individuals that contribute the majority of work in society. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
They were
yeah.
talking about being included in a system that involves all different types of people, a functional, like full picture of society. Um, so yeah, the Pareto thing is really interesting because it's like, somebody could be officially in charge, but it's like the Pareto employee at a company, like the IT guy, could just quit and fire the entire management and union. Low key is how that actually works in practical terms, like the whole company, by just leaving, because then nobody knows like how the computer works. If it's
Hmm.
like specialized code or something.
Yeah, yeah. That's what's so great about these political systems that we do have in place, and even the founders of the U.S. They are working with prior thinkers as well. They worked out all this stuff for us in a really great way. I mean, the founders like did a really amazing job with like checks and balances, and then you open up a new door that was bolted and chained shut. The new door. Oh, there's more checks and balances. Oh, there's more checks and balances, and like all these things that like, especially us modern, postmodern people, were just like, oh, maybe balance it out a little bit, but let's have this party all be in power. It's like they really thought really evenly about these things and put a lot of safeguards in place. And so that's why I like going to the older thinkers, especially the classical thinkers like I named, and then the founders who use those classical thinkers as well.
Yeah, the problem we ran into with the distinction between like classic liberalism and neoliberalism
Hmm.
is is economic. You're talking about special
Yeah.
interests, basically, like functionally, it ends up working out to do with money. And I mean, it's a mix of like uh, old world moneyed elite leverage and sort of uh, collectivized like foreign nations and stuff. They wield a lot of leverage, you know. Um, but if you look at the official government statistics, um, there is an outsized net contributor demographic, like singular net contributor demographic, which is kind of the like working class men in the United States are pretty much the only
Yeah.
ones that are net negative,
Yeah.
or net positive systemically, kind of floating the whole deal. So it does come back again to like a conflict where, in essence, I think wokeism and a lot of this stuff, and I'm not like I'm not left or right. I'm independent, but is a sort of subconscious eruption of like, okay, so this patriarchal white guy that is that Trump, or is it like a pro-social, helpful working guy that literally is floating the economy and covering welfare costs and everything, you know?
Hmm.
So that's a little bit different because that's not tyrannical at all, and it's like I don't know that there's a clear philosophical distinction being made by a lot of people, and whatever, like that's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
I mean, but even if you get the workers to I mean, what do you want workers to do? Just production? I mean, if you put them in any sort of position, political oversight, let's say, now they've got political power. So yeah, it's not tyrannical yet, but it will be, like you give anybody some power. And that, I think that's a human human problem. It's a personal problem. It's a problem of sin. And I haven't heard anything about sin in your picture. I've heard it just about powers and liberalism and movements and ideas and that sort of development, but I haven't heard anything about like personal virtue and character and vice, let alone sin. Does that fit in anywhere?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a Christian, so I
Mm.
actually think that that's a great question. I think that the distinction is entirely manifest. Like I guess I could cite some Soviets again. Like I don't know how to call him a Soviet. The line, not every human heart, good and evil, that whole thing. Um,
Yeah.
but he's kind of outside. So anyway, but like, um, yeah, no, I absolutely believe that these things are manifestly, objectively the case. Like people's choices physically actually exist, like, and have an effect, and there's a massive distinction. And so it's actually that does have to do with all this economic stuff because goods and services are fundamentally virtue terms. Like we don't pay for
Mhm.
things that like we actively dislike personally. And I
Right.
don't think things are really subjective like all that either. So yes, I do think that it matters a lot. Like the virtuous men ultimately are categorically different and provide all of the value, like
Yeah.
creativity, art, philosophy. These things make a huge difference. Hard work, like uh, and women too, of course. But I just mean like
Right.
that's value. That's literally what holds society together in a quite material sense, not units per se.
Yeah. That's why another reason why I appreciate these classical authors is because Plato, Aristotle, Augustine, and Aquinas disagree on a lot of things. There's a lot that they disagree with. But one thing that they all share in common, shockingly, is they think in order to have a good society, you have to cultivate virtue in your society. And if you don't, your society will collapse in some sense. It's just not gonna flourish. But anyway, we are at time, so I want to give you the final word before we move on to whoever's waiting in the lobby here. Final word.
Okay. So x equals 2 times x over 2. That's the ground of being, and that literally sets up like how a square relates to a rectangle, and categories exist. So you can make a distinction in saying that virtue is like a material term to do with success. So essentially, if you don't succeed, there can be no good in what you are doing. Like life being good, uh, work resulting in good things. So yeah, that's essentially my point. To try and just sort of throw out a means of again involving everybody. Actually, you make a
Cool.
good point about how the Pareto has truly the most power, but maybe consider that a check on the system in that direction. But I'll try and not cause too much trouble. How about that?
Sounds good. All right, we'll come back anytime, and I'll have to rewatch this video as I do all my videos, and think more about this issue because this is all I'm green on this issue. So thanks for coming on, and I'll talk to you next time. All right,
Please.
see ya. All right, guys, just a reminder, we're still going strong. As you can see, call in using the link at the very top of the chat. It's pinned message there. We're going to bring on the next guest, Subjective Ethics. That is a objective ethics. Always like, yeah, that's the allied right there in between words there. Objective ethics. So I'm going to bring you on here, brother. And we're going to give you 20 minutes like we do all our guests. And we've talked before, but of course, always about this issue. But what do you want to talk about now?
Hey, family, it's always great to see you. And I do have something specific I wanted to ask you. It is kind of in line with things I've been asking you already, but I only caught bits and pieces of what that last caller had mentioned, and I was just really curious what he thinks about like Machiavelli or Epicurus or some of these other thinkers that have talked about more of a political structure specifically or societal structure, things of this nature. But that's kind of a side note. Maybe he touched on that. I know he mentioned Socrates. You guys talked about virtue. That was another thing I was curious about, and you guys touched on that. But yeah, that is interesting, and it it's I'd like to come rewatch this and see what he has to say about stuff like that.
Yeah, do that.
He may have
Yeah.
mentioned Machiavelli or something. I just didn't catch it. But at any rate,
I don't think he did, but that it was towards the beginning we talked about his view, neo-disestablishmentarianism, I suppose, and then sort of unpacking that for the first half, and then I asked some questions later on.
yeah, that's a lot to unpack in 20
Yeah.
minutes. Just
Yeah, it is.
his name alone. So at any rate, I have a debate coming up myself regarding objective
What's
ethics,
this?
and yeah, I do too as well. I've been studying a bit from him, a brilliant thinker. But at any rate, thank you for responding to that, by the way. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. So I have a debate coming up, and as you know, even though I'm an agnostic, I do believe in objective ethics, and I tie morality to ethics and things of nature. So I'm having a debate finally against an atheist instead of a Christian, which I'm
interesting.
really I'm looking forward to it, because I have so many good Christian friends, not just Christians, but all different types of religions. But in particular, I have a lot of Christian friends, and I've been debating biblical morality a lot. And I always feel bad for having to dunk on the Bible so hard, you know what I mean? Because I feel like I'm hurting people's feelings to a degree, and I'm not against Christianity as a structure or a belief system, so to speak. I think there's a lot of beautiful things that you can pull out of the Bible itself. And so when I'm debating, I'm out to win a debate, and so I'm kind of, in a way, having to set my own sympathies and appreciations aside just to hammer home points. And I don't really feel very good about doing it. But at any rate, so debating against an atheist and debating something that I believe strongly in, I'm really looking forward to it. And I wanted to ask you about this. So for structure, as you know, I've been trying to come up with a theory about objective ethics. And I've been working on this for a very long time, studying a lot of philosophy to get behind, the deep thinkers that address this. And when it comes to Hume's guillotine, the is-ought problem, I just want to clarify with you that I'm understanding this correctly, because I'm very ignorant, and when you give a fool too much information, they just can be dangerous to themselves. And so I want to make sure I'm not getting my cart ahead of my horses here.
Okay, I can try. Yeah.
Okay, so with the is-ought problem, my understanding is that you can get an is from an ought if you have a bridge. Is that correct? That you need a bridge to get around the is-ought problem, but it can be done if you have the right structure?
I'd have to hear more. I know that Hume. I've never heard it referred to as Hume's guillotine. Maybe I have, but forgot. But the is-ought problem, yeah, Hume is just going to say you can't derive an ought from is. But this is in contrast with some medieval accounts, like some classical accounts of human nature, for example.
And in the bridge for the formal argument, the bridge, in my understanding, has to be something that is unproven and subjective. But it only makes sense to me that it can't just be some random stupid claim. It has to be something that is at least likely, but it can't be a fact. It can't be another is. So it's got to be another ought, but it can't be another. You can't bridge it with another is. Am I understanding that correctly?
I'm not sure if you are. I'd probably need some concrete examples. Do you have some?
I do, but unfortunately it's tied directly to my debate. I'm not sure if I want to give that out just in case my opponent is following me around. I don't want to give up, but let me just throw it out there, because this is really developing. I care more about the theory than I about winning this debate anyway. So because Nathaniel, the gentleman you spoke with, the Catholic gentleman, Nathaniel, he actually wants to debate me about a debate that I've already had and won quite handily on biblical morality. And he saw that debate, and he knows I've had the debate a few times now, and he's seen me stomp on my opponents pretty hard. And so he obviously feels like there's a weak link in my argument, because he's offered to debate me, and I'm happy to debate him. He's a really nice young man, but that's going to have to be down the road.
I saw that actually. He says he wants to present a Catholic perspective. So
yeah, and I'm always looking forward to. I've had some really great just conversations with that young man. He seems very nice. He seems like a good family guy and stuff. And so yeah, I'd be happy to entertain a debate with him. He certainly deserves it. He's been very polite and supportive. And but as far as this argument, my formal theory, if you call it that, for objective ethics, the unproven subjective premise that I'm trying to use is that it's better to be alive than dead. So I can't prove that, it's completely subjective, but I feel like it makes the most sense. I mean, obviously, you know what I mean? It just kind of seems, but again, I can't prove that. How could I prove that, right?
There's a lot of things that we can affirm yet not prove. I mean, a lot of things that are just self-evident. You remember how we talked about last time with respect to
Yes.
syllogisms like modus ponens, if A then B, line 2, A, line 3, therefore B. That's just self-evident. You can't non-circularly prove that. You'd have to use modus ponens to prove modus ponens. So it literally is self-evident, and some logical truths are going to be like this once you hit rock bottom, and then there might be some metaphysical truths and some axiological truths, like truths about value, like beauty is better than ugliness. Yeah, it is. It is self-evident that it is, and there's no way you can prove that. It just is. So you're going to hit these like bare facts. You know, these yeah. So yeah,
Now,
you're probably going to need one eventually. I mean, not just probably. You are going to bottom out eventually into something that's self-evident or circular or just unprovable. And so I think this is called Munchausen's trilemma. And so I don't think circularity or unprovable is desirable. So if you want something, it's going to have to be just self-evident.
okay, I appreciate the information. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I also have been studying informal logic and syllogistic arguments,
Yeah.
and I was trying to put my theory into an actual syllogism. And you suggested at one point that I substitute the words for placeholders using letters or
Yeah.
numbers or something like
Yeah.
X, Y, Z. So I started looking into how to formulate that, and I came across there's a lot of really great information, but looking at that, I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to be able to create a syllogistic argument for my position and make it technically, make it valid. I might be able to do
Yeah.
it, but I'm really, I mean, this has been something that's been debated by the greatest minds in philosophy for thousands of years, and
Yeah.
obviously there's arguments on both sides. So I'm
I mean, you can
probably
always bring
not
it
doing
bring it
that.
here if you like. We've had some people who share screen and work through a handout or something like that. So you could do that with a syllogism if you like, and I can show you kind of how to make it consistent and then how to make it valid. And then so you could bring, basically it's just a translation exercise. You want to translate from English prose into symbolic form. That's the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look up like logic translation exercises, you'll find how to practice doing this, and then you'll be like, oh, that's how you do it. That was easy. It actually is really easy. And then you just, but the principles here you want to work with and stick to are make sure that if you assign a variable to a proposition, that you stay with the same variable for every proposition. And then you want to make sure you use consistent language so you don't generate a new variable that doesn't need to be there. Like if you say materialism is, this, and then you say physicalism is this, well, now what might be a synonym in English is now going to cause you trouble because because logic is all about precision. Now that's going to generate a new proposition, a new variable in your kind of logical mathematical argument. So, and you don't want that because then you won't have a valid argument.
Okay.
But I'd probably have to show you these to really, excuse me.
Oh, bless you, as they say in
Thanks.
your worldview.
Atesue or
Well,
Gesundheit. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Now, if I was going to, and I really, I've been told a lot of people about you. In fact, Nathaniel's here because I've spoken very highly of you, and I'm very grateful to you and the other people who are experts in your field and who get paid money to do what you're doing for free, basically, being very generous to spend time to educate somebody like myself. I told you once that I'm pretty sure that I mentioned I've got 2 patents for my in my kind of design work, and I'm licensed to build boats to the U.S. Coast Guard. I actually, although I did go to college, almost nothing other than basic mathematics is related to my invention. I literally taught myself how to build boats off of the internet and by getting great advice from people who knew what they were talking about, all for free. And so people like yourselves, and I try to help people as well. So I've built businesses, and not only do I design products, but I've built business from the ground up. And I'm often trying to just volunteer my time to help people out because it's kind of like paying back society for
Yeah.
what's been
Yeah.
given to you. And that's really what you're doing here, brother. And I hope you
Yeah.
realize that
I
it's a great
appreciate it.
value. There are going to be people who, like myself right now, I'm receiving a great benefit for the information that you guys are just giving me for free that is actually valuable. It took you time and money to gain this information. I'm just
Yeah.
very grateful
Yeah.
for sharing it freely.
Well, absolutely, man. I'm happy to do it. You know, I like this stuff anyway. It's mutually beneficial. You know, I hope you're not going to go use it to go build an atom bomb or something like that. You know, you're going to use it for good, not for evil, of course. But yeah, it's. I mean, I if I love doing it and it helps me and it helps other people, then why wouldn't I do it? So yeah, I'm happy to be doing it.
Absolutely. So the final question I have, and then I got to
Mhm.
I got to go do my workout before my second shift at work tonight. So I got to get going. But
Oof.
I know, but hey, at least I'm working out again. The doctor finally released me to start exercising a
Good.
couple
I'm
weeks
glad to
ago.
hear
So,
that. Yeah,
oh
I'm
man,
glad
it's
to hear
been so
that.
great. Health is coming along nicely. So now the
Awesome.
if I do the it's better to be alive than dead.
Yeah.
In order to get that into a syllogism talking about ethics or morality, do I need to qualify that by saying that something like ethics or morality can only be applied to living people, or in order to get my letters, my symbols together? Because if I just make a blanket statement, how am I tying that validly to the argument if I'm going to use symbols? Because alive and
Um.
dead are going to have their own.
Right. Even plants can be alive. I mean, it could be assumed that by making this statement, I mean, or you could build it in there for precision, like it's better for humans to be alive than dead. I mean, it's really just a stylistic choice. Um, because I think if you left it as a better to be alive than dead, you could still have that be a defensible premise in your argument. But then, let's say you're writing a book, you want to devote a chapter on that, you're going to unpack that and clearly uh, explain that that connotes just human beings, or maybe you want to apply it to all existence. I mean,
Right.
probably better that. I mean, I don't know about spiders or something
Yeah.
like
No, I
that.
think.
Better to be alive, or mosquitoes, but it seems like livingness is better than deadness. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
and I
do
think
agree
that
with
could be
you.
a pretty general principle that you could
Well,
you
I
could
agree with
pretty
you
much
100%.
work with. Yeah.
No, I agree with you 100%. I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I have decided to probably go ahead and take on the book project because I've got a lot of
Mm-hmm.
support and a lot of encouragement to do that.
Cool.
But as far as forming a syllogistic argument, a valid one, because in the book, as it's been explained to me, it's much easier to take each premise and just make it a chapter, and I don't have to formulate a particular syllogism out of that necessarily. But if I'm going to try and create a syllogistic argument, if I make the statement it's better to be alive than dead, and I'm using symbols in place
Yeah.
of words to test the syllogism, the validity of the argument itself, alive and
Yeah.
dead are going to have their own symbols, and they're not going to be necessarily related to any of the other premises. It's just going to be kind of it's on an island out there just to get me around Hume's
Right.
guillotine.
Yeah. You so you want to make sure that you are symbolizing a premise. Sorry, not a premise, a proposition. So right, so like it's if it's raining outside, then the streets are wet. So the proposition, there's two propositions there, and atomic propositions, that is. One is it is raining outside, and another, the streets are wet. So I would use that as if A, then B, and I would assign A to the raining outside, B to the streets are wet. And that's sufficient. Now, if I want to make sure that that does work later in my argument, in my syllogism, I need to make sure that those propositions reappear later somewhere in my argument. Otherwise, it was pointless that I even assigned them
Right.
like what's it do in my argument? It has to do something. So that's what I'm saying with respect to consistent language, right? If I'm going to word something as better be alive than dead, you could say therefore it's better for humans to be alive than dead, or something like that, and then there might be a premise in there like humans can be alive, humans can be dead. It's better for humans to be alive than dead, or something like that. Or you can just start with humans, and then this could play some. I mean, I'd have to see the arguments to like really
Okay.
know what you're working with, but that's I don't know. It's limited what I can
No,
offer
that
advice
actually, believe it
in
or not,
general.
that
Yeah.
actually, no, believe it or not, as vague as you might feel like that's coming across, that really is extremely helpful. And I will come
Okay.
back and rewatch this. I wanted to hear what Nathaniel had to say. I literally just walked in the door right when to
Yeah.
catch the end of his thing. So I'm sure that
And
was an interesting discussion. He's a very intelligent young man. You're
yeah.
obviously very intelligent. So I'm sure that was a great talk.
Thanks.
All right. Well, I will I normally like to say hello, and I hope you and your family are in good health
Yeah,
and doing well. And I feel rude
you
I didn't
too.
start with that. I kind of came in guns blazing here.
That's all right. That's all right. So yeah,
Then
great to hear from you, man.
yeah.
I'm glad to hear that your health is doing well as well. So hope that keeps up.
No, I appreciate it very much. Yeah, things are looking up. I've got I've got a buddy of mine who works down at Nike, and he's been waiting for me to get healthy enough, and he really wants me to come. And I've got
Good.
$300,000 to put back into my retirement that I pulled out for medical bills over the
Ooh,
last 2 years.
ooh,
So yeah, I've got
yeah,
I've got a hill to climb.
man,
But I
yeah.
know it's crazy. Modern medicine, though, you gotta it's an amazing thing. But anyway, I will
It's
close
rough,
by
yeah.
just saying thank you for the positive energy as always. I'm glad
Of
to hear everyone's
course.
in good health, and I will be listening. And I won't be active in the chat for everyone who knows because I'll be working
Okay.
out, but I will be listening to you guys.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks for calling in, man, and we will see you next time, I'm sure. All right, take care. All right, good. So let's stop that timer there. All right, cool. So yeah, we are now at a stopping point here, and we may continue. We may have one other call in or something, but yeah. So this has been great. We've covered a lot of ground, and man, gosh, I didn't even like update you guys about my weekend or anything like that. We kind of just launched right in. I know people were waiting. That was really uh, brilliant and thrilling to see. I was like, awesome, there are people waiting. So I got through a couple of business items with respect to what videos we're doing, but didn't really like share with you how the last week went or so. So I'll wait and keep the line open for the next caller and so on. That's still an offer on the table for anybody who wants to do that. But in the meantime, I'll fill you in on the weekend. So I had my 20-year high school reunion. Maybe I should have done this at the beginning because it's going to be buried like an hour and a half in. But last weekend, I did my 20-year high school reunion. I never thought that I'd be somebody who go to reunions. Maybe I did. Maybe I am one of those people, but I am. And it was actually pretty pleasing. I got to meet, and my wife came with me. My son came with me to like tour my high school. Lots has changed, of course. It's been 20 years. It's got probably doubled in size. They added a grade instead of just 10, 11, 12. Now it's ninth grade as well. They've got JV plus varsity, and like we just didn't have it. I mean, our high school was already big with just 10, 11, 12, and then they added a grade, so it's like huge. I graduated with 500 people, which you wouldn't expect that, over in Fort Smith, Arkansas. But you guys saw the post on my channel. There is a post about it with my wife and son. You can see that. And yeah, we had a great time. Went to a high school football game Friday night. Saturday morning, we toured the high school. There was a 2-hour tour because the assistant principal who did the tour was like really gung-ho about showing us everything, telling us everything. We also had a mascot change because we were the rebels, and that's racist, apparently, they tell us. So it's not racist, by the way. But they said it was bad. We needed to change it, and so we changed it, and we're now the Mavericks, which is dumb. But so we had to like be an apologist for the Mavericks and like tell us about all the good things they've been doing, of course. So that took a long time. Oh man, I totally forgot. I was going to share this with you guys as well. And maybe it's a good thing that this is buried so far into the stream. That way nobody will see it. Man, here it is. So you're going to love this. You're going to love this. I don't know how many people's left here, but if you stayed this long, you get a treat because you get this. This is Baby Derek, Baby Doctor, right here. All State Choir, 2004, 2005. Here I am, over here. Let's take a look at that handsome mug right there. That is me. That's Baby Derek without a beard. That's what I look like, and a heck of a singer. So that's me. I will not sing for you. I actually showed this to each one of my classes, and I was like, no, never the twain shall meet. I'm not going to do both. I'm not going to start a band about philosophy or something. That would be so cringe and terrible. So, you won't ever hear me sing probably unless I open up like a music channel or something like that. Probably won't happen. But maybe you can blackmail my family to record me singing or something. Blackmail my wife. I mean, that'd be the only way. I do sing every day. I just don't sing for you guys. So sorry, not sorry. You don't get it. And anyway, that's the best I can do for you. A nice little clip-on bow tie there. So yeah, so went back, saw that in my old choir room. Everything's so small, internal, but then like the school growing. It's bigger, of course. But yeah, went back there, realized it had been it's hanging on the wall for the last 20 years apparently. And so it really is like, and I walked in, and my wife and like people were looking at it for our year. Of course, we're all trying to find the one for our year. And I told my wife that I got an Allstate. And I was like, look, the legends are true. Look, there's proof. And so show my son and everything. So it was pretty fun. And say here, like singing to you might not be the best, but it makes my heart feel good. That's the spirit. That's good. You know, I know people I love who are like that. My mom is like that. My baby Dr. Derek. Yeah, way before doctor. Actually, it took me about 15 years to get my doctorate. All told, like all my degrees, and finally finished. 2020 is when I graduated with my doctorate. 2005 is when I graduated with my high school diploma. So about 15 years difference. So yeah, very much baby, very much not a doctor. And yeah, it's just nice. I realized that back then, long ago, I did not really, didn't really do many extracurricular activities in high school. I did one. It was just choir, and tried my best to do my best, right? It made Allstate. But I didn't really, do a lot because I was working. I was working almost full time. I worked at both Chick-fil-A and then Starbucks. Worked some Sonic Drive-In. I don't know if you guys know about Sonic Drive-Ins. Great stuff, great drinks, Coney dogs, mozzarella sticks, that sort of thing. Jalapeno poppers, great stuff. It's basically like a virgin alcoholic bar. Like they have all the drinks, the old fountain sodas and stuff. It's a company out of Oklahoma, so you may not get it unless you're like around that state. We only have a couple here in Maryland, but yeah. So worked at Sonic and did a lot of work, and then I also spent a lot of time at church and youth group, like doing worship, like praise and worship, music and stuff like that. And so led the music there, singing, playing guitar, and so on. That I got to play guitar as well. You guys didn't know that, but of course, if I sing, I got to play guitar. Yeah. So it's funny. I made Allstate, but I can't even read music. Let's figure that one out. Yeah, I can read intervals. I couldn't tell you what a note is on the sheet music, and I couldn't tell you like what key it's in, anything like that. I just know intervals, and I know kind of whole notes, half notes, quarter notes. Like that's it. And I have pretty good memory and pick up things pretty quickly. So I was like, that's all I needed. I worked at Racing Canes. It's pretty great. And I remember making $5.15 as minimum wage when it was $5.15 minimum wage way back in the day, probably when I was like 15 years old. So, it was thrilling. And with respect to like leading worship at that church, I went back and saw the old church, and they've grown as well. They built a whole new complex wing that they've attached, and that was cool. I'm no longer Protestant. I'm Catholic now. So that let me take this banner off here. So things are a lot different. That was a Protestant church. It was a Free Will Baptist church. So and they look a lot like Hillsong United and Bethel music and that sort of stuff. Like a lot of like the screen behind them, you guys, it was like the words, and it was the entire length. It wasn't just like a projector screen. It was across the entire stage. It wasn't just words. It was like all the graphics, everything. They probably have a whole library that's subscribed to just for all those movable graphics. So that was something. And I was like, oh man, this is not how I remembered, of course. So, and definitely not like a Catholic church. In a Catholic church, that would be extremely irreverent, but for what that's worth. But going back there was good to see everybody that I knew before. So like my youth pastor, my senior pastor, all the pastors really. And then, and to see, people I'd grown up with, people I graduated. I don't see anybody I graduated with, but I saw people in like grades higher and grades lower, and their families now, they're all married and have kids. So really, really terrific. Just seeing old people, old faces that I hadn't seen some in like 20 years. So letting them meet my wife, my son, and it was pretty terrific. So so that was my weekend. We got back in. We spent 4 days in Arkansas, got back into Baltimore late Sunday night. And so we've kind of just been recovering ever since. I worked yesterday teaching, and that leads me to today. Here I am. We actually hosted a dinner last night as well. People from our parish, our church, we're on parish council at our Catholic church, and we have a little, like, I guess, secret Tuesday dinner meeting that us and a few other people go to, and every once in a while we'll host it. We've just hosted a couple. We have people like our priest was there, in full garb, head to toe with, his cassock and everything. We're talking like Dominican friar, so like white belt, rosary belt and all that. And so so he was there, and then our organist was there. Our organist is not some old lady. It's like a real concert pianist guy who's like about my age. Wild hair, of course, as one does when one's a really talented musician. And we had some other people there. It was just great to catch up with friends after being out of town for so long. So as far as what's next for us, like I said, I recorded a video today, actually. So you're going to see me in the same clothing. I'm not going to do any costume changes or anything for this video. So I stayed in the same stuff. And that video is on, let's see if I can remember. It's on the similarities between what you might call woke leftists and, on one hand, and conspiracy theorists on the right. I think that they share a similarity between them, and as I talk about in that video. So if that interests you, and I think it's a common intellectual vice that they both fall into, they share in common. It's just with respect to different content. So if that interests you, if intellectual vices interest you, if intellectual virtue interests you, now we're talking about moral virtue, we're talking about intellectual virtue, things like being intellectually honest, being intellectually diligent, being intellectually humble, those sorts of things. So if that really interests you, like it does me, in other words, like if being a good thinker interests you, then being a clear thinker and a critical thinker and getting things right in the right method, we're starting at a real basic level. If that stuff interests you, then you're going to want to see that video. So, and as always, we'll wrap up here because we're kind of running out of steam. I know I'm running out of steam. Maybe it's because I was traveling, but we'll wrap up here. It's good to see everybody. And you guys are talking about some great stuff about physics, math, political philosophy. It's great because, like, I don't have strengths in everything. I can kind of comment upon stuff, but it does remind me of being in grad school where it's like, look, not everybody is going to be specializing in the areas I'm going to specialize in, but you still want, as colleagues, to like be supportive and be like, oh. And so, like, even somebody who we used to have at Baylor in the doctoral program, we used to have weekly colloquium. So we would have breakfast provided, awesome breakfast, tacos and stuff. I remember there in Texas, and so good, actually. It's so delicious. I'm craving some now, but we would have breakfast provided. We had weekly colloquium, and a student would always present a paper, and then everybody who attend, it would be, of course, lured in by the breakfast. You would attend, and you may not be an expert or specialize in that area, but given your kind of general educated, self, you would be able to like comment or ask questions about. And so that reminds me of kind of what we're doing here. Even though I may not specialize in that area, and I don't specialize in physics, I don't specialize in math and political philosophy. I like some of it, but there's a lot of stuff that I don't know. There's a lot of stuff elsewhere that I don't know. But yeah, I think it just requires that you get that you cultivate a genuine curiosity about things. So yeah. Anyway, so we will wrap it up there, guys. I hope that you look out for the new video, please, and make sure with this video that you come back, rewatch it, share it with others, encourage people to call in. We want to make this something. We want to make it a good show where people actually are calling in frequently, and we can rotate people, as many as possible. I think we got through about 5 or 6 today, which is a great number. So, but the more people who are aware of this, the more people who will feel encouraged to come on, and then we have different experiences and different stuff that we are learning and that you are learning and so on. So, and of course, to the degree that I can help them, or that they teach me, then they get help as well. So, all right, guys, we'll put a pin in it there. We will pick it back up on next Wednesday, same time, 4:30 Eastern. And look out for that next video. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and I will see you in the next one. All right, take care. Bye-bye.